My boyfriend stood by and watched another man slap my butt and flirt with me, then cried when I talked to him about it. My boyfriend is a traditionally feminine man, and at the start of the relationship I did not think this was going to be a problem. I never had a problem with him painting his nails or wearing skirts or makeup sometimes. I thought it was very cool how he expressed himself and broke stereotypes of what it means to be a straight man. However, I learned that with this expression came the side effect of him being, for lack of a better word, a total wimp. As someone who is used to standing up and fighting for herself, I have no problem with this, but sometimes it's exhausting and I truly want my boyfriend to stand up and fight for me, yet he seems to be unable to do that. He is truly terrified of confrontation, so much so that when he shook my dad's hand for the first time, he refused to look my dad in the eye. My dad later went on to remark that that was the biggest beach boy handshake ever. I don't remember my boyfriend ever sticking up for me, even when his friends made a joke about me at a party we attended in front of me, he said nothing. He awkwardly laughed and excused himself, leaving me alone. I remember us being at a club once and while he was in the bathroom I was approached by a different guy. I tried to keep the conversation short and uneventful, trying to shut him down ASAP when I saw my boyfriend come back. I said aloud, "Oh, there's my boyfriend," and when the other guy saw him he laughed. He said to us both, "Ain't no way this nail painter here is your man? Don't you want a real man?" I was the one who had to tell him to back off as my boyfriend stood looking at the ground. We had a serious conversation that night. I told him he needed to man the F up, plain and simple. I was not going to be dating a wimp who can't tell another man not to hit on his girl. My boyfriend was quiet, and all he could muster up was an "I'm sorry" and "I love you." I know it's true, my boyfriend really does love me, and I love him. This is not something I ever have to question, but it really does weigh on me when the man who is supposed to be able to protect me relies on me to do the protection. We ended the conversation with him telling me he was not willing to change the way he dressed or looked, but he was willing to try to be a bit more confrontational if the time came for it. I was pleased with this and saw it as progress. We ended up hugging and cuddling to end the night. Over the next few weeks he was talking about taking self-defense classes, told me he seriously wanted to start going to the gym with me and even said he was willing to come meet my dad again. I was extremely happy with his thoughts, but they were just thoughts. He would talk about doing these daily, but he never actually did them. Every day it was the same thing. I became actually sick of it one day and told him that he either actually signs up to the gym or stops talking about it. He didn't take it too well, proceeding to lock himself in the bedroom upstairs to think about things. When he came out, he looked like he had cried, but I didn't ask and he never told me about it. We never addressed this issue, which I think was what led to a major downfall. A few weeks later we went to the mall together, and while standing in line waiting to order food, I felt someone slap my butt. Seeing as my boyfriend was behind me, I turned around expecting it to be him, but instead I saw a tatted out 6'3" maybe 6'4" guy smiling at me. I asked him what the F and he replied, telling me not to pretend as if I don't like it. Before I could respond, he pulled out his phone and told me he had a survey for cute girls and proceeded to give me his phone with the ad contacts page pulled up. I looked at it and told him no, then told him to get lost before I yelled that he's a creep. He ended up leaving when I said that, and I looked at my boyfriend. He was standing back face to me with his phone in his hand watching TikTok. I then asked him what that was all about, and he replied what with a confused look on his face. He pretended he didn't see any of that happening. We got our food and ate in silence, and drove home in silence too. I told him I wanted to talk as soon as we got home, and he asked about what? I lost it on him. I told him I wanted to talk about the fact that he is a wuss, a wimp, the biggest and most pathetic excuse for a man I have ever met in my entire life, that I'm embarrassed by the fact that he's standing there with his tail between his legs while another man hits on his girl. Not only that, he is so scared of saying anything to this man, that he pretends he doesn't see it happening. This rant was all it took for him to burst into tears and hurry upstairs and lock himself in the bedroom, which is where he has been residing for the past 2 days. He only comes out to use the bathroom and refuses to talk to me. I've been sleeping in the guest room. Should I just end the relationship? Update: my boyfriend stood by and watched another man slap my butt and flirt with me, then cried when I talked to him about it. I have spoken to my friends about the situation and I got some good advice. They were really honest with me and they told me there is nothing wrong with wanting a strong man by your side. They told me that modern-day social media has brainwashed us into thinking that having a soy boy man as a partner is totally okay and normal, when in fact it is the complete opposite. They asked me if I ever think my boyfriend will change to be the man I want him to be, and I hesitated. Then they asked me if one day I get to call him my husband, will I be proud of this? Will I look at him and feel cared for and protected by this man? And my answer was no. There was no hesitation. I told them that I do not feel protected by him. They told me that my answer was clear then. So I went to break up with him. He was still in his room, only stuff that he could out in the oven then come down and get and leaving the room to use the bathroom. It has been 4 days by now and I came by to knock on his door for around the 15th time, and I got no response as usual. I yelled through the door I'm breaking up with him, and got no response. I told him I needed to get in to get my stuff, and got no response. The door was locked too. I kept telling him to open the door, and he only did when I threatened to call the police. As soon as I said police, the door flung open. He proceeded to beg me as I was packing, even resorting to getting on his knees and grabbing my leg. I ended up calling him pathetic. Maybe it was too far, but what else was I supposed to say to a man who acts like a butthurt and super entitled 14-year-old girl who did not get her way? I ended up leaving and blocking him.